you can depend on.
This is Business Express on Smooth 98.1. Zibby and Rotus here with you this morning. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Zibby. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers. Good to be with you all again for a Hump of the Week Wednesday.
Hump of the Week Wednesday. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. Let us know what your thoughts are. You can send them through at any point during the show. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981, or just tweet at Smooth981. So, Rotus, this is interesting. Now, the World Bank is stating that Nigeria's growth will actually slow down to about 2.9%.
Yes, that is correct. They released their global economic prospects reports. I think it was just yesterday. And in that report, they're saying that indeed our growth is going to slow in this year, and even in 2024, it's not going to increase much. As far as the factors behind that, they're looking at mainly the oil sector, saying that aging infrastructure, oil thefts are impacting the ability for Nigeria to ramp up oil production and sell oil in 2023. They're talking about the oil sector actually hampering the non-oil sector. Also said, mentioned high borrowing costs are going to still impact Nigeria's fiscal structure. This year, we spent about our debt service to revenue ratio. That's the amount of money we used to settle interest payments was like 80%. So 80 naira out of every 100 naira that we earned in 2022 last year, at least through November, 80 naira out of every 100 naira we made went towards paying interest rates. And then they also mentioned the floods from last year. The floods are going to impact the agricultural sector. And yeah, I mean, it's not a very bleak, not a very encouraging picture for whoever is coming into power this year. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to try to turn things around. But it was just, as far as their outlook for Nigeria, it was just one headwind after another. Meanwhile, for sub-Saharan Africa, I think they projected that growth would be at 3.6% in 2023, but inch upwards to 3.9%, indicating that much of sub-Saharan Africa would benefit from, at least the oil-producing nations would benefit from higher oil prices. Meanwhile, Nigeria wouldn't. So that's your mix as far as the outlook for the Nigerian economy is concerned.
Right. Okay. And like you said, it's not particularly a great time for whoever's coming in, is it?
It is not. I mean, whoever is coming in is going to be constrained. I mean, it all depends on what they do about fuel subsidy costs. If they can unlock that and use that to boost revenues, they throw that towards other things, then maybe they have a chance. But I don't even know if Nigerians are mentally ready for higher fuel prices, because we still have fuel scarcity.
I'm a Nigerian and I'm certainly not ready.
So you see, that's the thing. So how do you explain to people that, listen, we need to use this money for other things? I've seen reports from people in Bayelsa, in Yenagoa, complaining about fuel being 350, 400. I've seen people in Port Harcourt complaining that they're buying fuel for 500, 400 naira. And, so how do you tell these people that that is where it's supposed to be priced? And then tell them that, okay, we'll move this money towards education, or we'll move this money towards something else. That is the challenge. But we're boxed into a corner and hard decisions have to be made. And there you have, but it's crazy. I mean, they're going to be sworn in May of this year after the election. By the way, PVC collection has started. I'm picking up my PVC today or tomorrow. So please, everybody, go and collect your PVC. Yes, as if you switched your polling booth, or you ordered a new PVC, or you lost it and you went to INEC and you replaced it within the time. But anyway, as far as the new administration coming in May And then June, subsidy is supposed to end. I mean, literally a month after they're in office, they have a tough decision to make within 30 days. What do we do? Do we allow the subsidies to end in June, or do we extend them to December to try and give, a break, as it were, to people who are paid? So that's when we know how serious that's it. That's the sign of how serious whoever wins is. Tinubu has said he'll remove it. Peter Obi says he'll remove it. I think Atiku said he'll remove it as well. I think the three main candidates have said that they'll take it off. Well, I'm not sure if Atiku said he'll remove it immediately or in phases. Peter Obi and Tinubu said they'll take it off immediately. So whoever wins, we'll see how serious they are within 30 days of being in office, in addition to announcing their cabinets very quickly, because they got to hit the ground running. So Zibby, it's big time. Well, this is a real big pivotal year for the economy of this country, of this nation.
All right. So I want to ask this, though. Why would Nigeria's non-oil economy be dependent on the oil sector?
Yeah, so Zibby, the oil sector is the main cash cow of this country. If you look at Dubai and how they turned into a tourist center of the world, they used oil money. If you look at Qatar and how they funded the World Cup, spending over $200 billion reportedly, building stadiums and infrastructure, it was oil money. Saudi Arabia wants to build this high-tech city that's, moved by technology and so on, flying cars and all these grand plans. It's oil money. So as much as you want to diversify away from oil and talk about net zero and all this other stuff, it is still oil, that is oil money, that is going to be used to transform your economy. So when your oil sector is not doing well, it's going to impact your capital projects and in fact your non-oil plans. So that's how dependent we are.
All right, I've got a few messages coming through. This one is from Zicolo, and he says, "Good morning. This advocacy for fuel subsidy removal by Rotus with the excuse that the money will be used for education and other things will soon come. We will then wait to hear what we will be told after the money saved will disappear as usual." And Ogenel Chuku says, "I would be surprised if the World Bank prediction is the opposite, which means growth. The presidential candidates for the coming elections have not told us in details how the removal would solve numerous problems." Okay. Benga says, "How much trust do we have in our leaders? Will that money removed from oil subsidies be spent in areas of impact for Nigerians? What about structural defects in financial regulations? How come the CBN and the government spend over the limits for the ways and means and no heads are rolling?" Okay.
Solid points. Those are solid points from everybody that sent those messages. Thank you so much for your messages. We always appreciate hearing from you guys. And it shows you that there's a big trust deficit. The people just don't trust the government, and they don't think that they will use the money well. So that, look, Zibby, it's one or the other. Either they use the money judiciously or they don't. And if they don't, then we remain in this situation. So at this point, there's nowhere else to go, Zibby. It's something has to give. Something's got to give.
Okay, so if Nigeria is barely growing above her population, what does that mean for the poor?
It means the poor continue to increase. The same World Bank said that inflation pushed 5 million people into poverty. I think there's an overlap because they also said COVID pushed 7 million people into poverty. So I think between higher inflation, which is a tax on the poor, and COVID, I think there's an overlap where both of them pushed more people into poverty. At the same time, the President Buhari said he was going to lift 100 million people out of poverty. And you cannot do that unless your economy is growing. You cannot do that unless you are giving people jobs. I mean, I almost want to pick jobs over power, or solving power. But if you solve power, you give people jobs. So if your economy is not growing, you cannot. What it means to lift people out of poverty, that literally means you're making people richer. Like China did it in in a space of how many years? Brazil has done it, America has done it, so many countries have done it. You have to make people wealthy to take them out of poverty. And the only way you can make people wealthy is to give them good jobs so they can go and work and earn money. There's no magic to it. There's no fancy grammar. There's no nothing. Lifting people out of poverty means giving them jobs. And Nigeria has been losing jobs. She has not been creating jobs. So, that's another issue that the next president has to pick up and look, how am I going to create jobs for the youth? Stop them jackpotting and leaving to other countries. How am I going to give them jobs here? And that is how you lift people out of poverty. So if you're not growing, if your GDP is just at the same neck and neck with population growth or below, then that means more people are being created and there's no opportunities for them to be able to fend for themselves. And that's how you look at what happened in Edo State with that. You get crime, you get all these terrible things happen. By the way, I hear the presidency, this is not business, but the presidency said that we shouldn't worry, that the election will still happen despite insecurity. So, there you go.
All right, now let's see if the people will be willing to actually go out because of insecurity to actually vote.
Exactly. That's another thing. So
all right, we've got a few minutes to go. Let's talk about President Buhari's investment strategy. Now, he says that he's got no investments at all outside Nigeria. What do you make of this?
So, President Buhari, I think the only thing that you can say unequivocally about him, I think, is that he's a decent man and he's clean. He's not corrupt. He's never had any scandals to his name. And he's a very simple guy. He just has his farm in Daura. And so that's all he's got. So I think he was saying this with respect to, I think there was something that came up about corruption stuff or whatever. And he was like, look, you can't tag anything to me. I'm clean. I don't have any property outside Nigeria. But from an investment strategy, it's just, it's a limited strategy. I just thought that it's pretty limited. You've got to expand your portfolio beyond the shores of this country. That's, because of a number of factors.
I bet if the president was investing outside the country, there would be a huge problem with it.
Well, the thing is, he's still an individual. He's a person. Inflation affects him as well. So I've always told people you've got to hold, dollar securities or stuff, out in other countries so that you can protect your purchasing power. And he's probably a wealthy guy. He probably has a lot of money, so maybe he doesn't need to invest overseas. But, as an investment strategy, so I just think it's pretty limiting. That's what I think.
So diversify the bag across.
Exactly. You gotta, hold other securities outside Nigeria. So as inflation keeps climbing, your purchasing power is protected. That's really all it's about. That's all it's about.
All right, I've got two more messages, and this is from Engineer Rice. He says, as much as I believe fuel subsidy should be removed, I don't want it removed as I don't trust the government. What did they do with the savings when petrol moved from 88 naira to 145 naira? What have they done with the savings since then, from 145 to 169? The common man won't feel the impact of the removal. In a country where things like this happen, you're only making more available to be stolen. Subsidy isn't bad, but it has been rather misused in Nigeria. And that is it for Business Express. Thank you, Rotus. Thank you for your messages.
Thank you, Zibby. Thanks for your messages, everybody. Catch you guys tomorrow.
All right. Have a brilliant day ahead. That is it for Business Express. Do stay with us. There's a lot more to come on Smooth Breakfast.
Brought to you by EnterSwitch. Transaction solutions you can depend on. Smooth 98.1.
No. Did you?